Remember when New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern won re-election in October 2020? That was a very emphatic win. Of course, she had cashed in on the pandemic, where leaders sidelined political opponents and dominated all the airwaves and messaging. Opposition leaders all around the world couldn't get a word in at the time. Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk did the same thing. So here was Jacinda Ardern, or Saint Jacinda as they call her, winning over 49% of the primary vote. This gave Labor 64 seats and a rare outright majority in the parliament, while the National Party picked up only 35 seats. With a landslide victory like that, you'd think Saint Jacinda would be in power for the next decade at least. Well, not so much. The shine has worn off the New Zealand Prime Minister, and thank goodness for that. Her sanctimonious lectures and woke green left ideology have been excruciating to watch. New Zealanders have worked out that she knows nothing about economics, and in fact, the once strong New Zealand economy left by John Key and Bill English in 2017 is now in tatters. Trade unions have been bolstered under her premiership, and the housing shortage remains despite her overzealous promises. Who could forget Ardern's promise to build 100,000 affordable new homes in 10 years under the plan titled Kiwi Build? 2 years later, the Kiwi Build policy was under review as only 258 houses had been built. That is a huge betrayal to New Zealanders who relied on her to fix the housing crisis as she had promised. What's worse is in 2019, she told farmers they had 5 years to reduce their carbon emissions before her government would introduce financial penalties. Does the Prime Minister not know that New Zealand's agriculture sector is a huge source of wealth for the country? Her ignorance has no limits. Fancy at a time of hyperinflation and global unrest, her government wages a war with farmers across the country and introduces unworkable regulations. Last month, Saint Jacinda said this, quote, "Cutting emissions will help New Zealand farmers to not only be the best in the world, but the best for the world, gaining a price premium for climate-friendly agricultural products while also helping to boost export earnings." She went on, "We're committed to building a system that works for farmers. We will continue to work in partnership to drive as much consensus as possible to ensure we have a system that lasts the distance." Well, excuse me, building a system that works for farmers? She's absolutely kidding. How is introducing heavy taxes on the agricultural sector, which by 2030 will mean an estimated 20% of sheep and beef farmers and 5% of dairy farmers will be forced out of business, how is that building a better system? That's called sending farmers broke. Agriculture is New Zealand's biggest industry, generating more than 70% of exports and about 12% of gross domestic product. All I can say is thank goodness the latest Roy Morgan poll has Ardern's Labor neck and neck with the up-and-coming National Party. The opposition leader, Christopher Luxon, looks to be a fierce political opponent who can finally give Saint Jacinda a run for her money at next year's election.